Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to White Sands Missile Range. Today we gather for a historic occasion, the relinquishment of command and casing of the colors of White Sands Test Center. Today's ceremony is hosted by Brigadier General Morgan, Commanding General, White Sands Missile Range. We are especially honored to welcome Major General Gaydon, Commanding General, U.S. Army Test and Evaluation Command, who joins us today in recognition of Colonel Johnson's outstanding service. This ceremony marks both the completion of Colonel Johnson's command of the White Sands Test Center and the formal deactivation of the organization as its mission continues under White Sands Missile Range. Today's ceremony is not an end, but a transfer, one that honors leadership, preserves legacy, and strengthens the future of America's range. We would like to recognize our distinguished guests joining us today for this historic occasion. Major General Gaydon, Commanding General, United States Army Test and Evaluation Command. Command Sergeant Major Bradford Smith, Command Sergeant Major, United States Army Test and Evaluation Command. Brigadier General Morgan, Commanding General, White Sands Missile Range. Command Sergeant Major Acevedo, Command Sergeant Major, White Sands Missile Range. Mr. Vasquez, Field Representative, Office of Congressman Gabe Vasquez. Mr. Amabisco, Field Representative, Office of Congressman Gabe Vasquez. Representatives from our joint partners, industry partners, community leaders, veterans, retired service members, and the White Sands Missile Range team. We also extend a special welcome to the families and loved ones of our soldiers and civilians whose sacrifice and support make service possible. We also proudly recognize the organizations supporting today's ceremony. The 1st Armored Division Band, led by Sergeant Cash, whose professionalism and musical support help preserve the traditions and ceremonial excellence of our armed forces. The White Sands Missile Range Color Guard, led by Staff Sergeant Zoiro, and the proud heritage of our White Sands Missile Range. Thank you all for your participation in today's ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the entrance of the official party, the rendering of honors, and the playing of our national anthem. Please remain standing for the invocation given by Chaplain Brian Kimball.
Feel free to pray with me. Dear God of heaven, we come before you today to thank you for White Sands. May this ceremony today honor the heritage of this historic location and all that is done for our nation. We also give thanks for Colonel Johnson for his service, his sacrifice, and thank you for those who have stood by him and helped him during this time. We ask all this in your holy name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, Colonel Johnson would like to honor his family for their unwavering support throughout his command. In Army tradition, red roses are presented to the outgoing commander's spouse as a gesture of gratitude and deep respect. Red is the color of the heart and symbolizes love, devotion, and sacrifice, reflecting the loving concern and steadfast support Mrs. Ryan Johnson has shown throughout Colonel Johnson's tenure in command. Mrs. Johnson, your grace, strength, and unwavering support have not gone unnoticed. On behalf of White Sands Test Center and White Sands Missile Range, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Colonel Johnson also wishes to recognize his children, Abigail, Chase, and Logan, whose patience, resilience, and adaptability reflect the very best of the military family. The strength and character they have shown through the challenges of military life are a testament to the family Colonel Johnson and Mrs. Johnson have built together. With gratitude to the Johnson family, we now proceed with today's ceremony. The relinquishment of command is a time-honored military tradition symbolizing the transfer of authority and responsibility from the outgoing commander to the senior commander. Today, Colonel Johnson concludes his service as commander of White Sands Test Center, having led with dedication to the organization, its soldiers, civilians, and the nation. The passing of the colors represents this transfer of authority, responsibility, and accountability. In accordance with orders issued by headquarters, Colonel Johnson relinquishes command of White Sands Test Center effective 9 June 2026. Colonel Johnson is commended for his leadership, dedication, and service to the organization, the soldiers, civilians, and the nation. Sergeant Major Sloan presents the organizational colors to Colonel Johnson. Colonel Johnson now passes the colors to Brigadier General Morgan, symbolizing the transfer of authority and responsibility. With the passing of the colors, Colonel Johnson formally relinquishes command of White Sands Test Center. Brigadier General Morgan now returns the colors to Sergeant Major Sloan, symbolizing the preservation of the unit's history and honor. With the relinquishment of command complete, White Sands Test Center now prepares to case its colors and conclude service as an active organization. Throughout history, unit colors have marked the position of the commander on the battlefield and served as a rallying point for soldiers in combat. The colors are the commander's symbol of authority. Wherever the commander is, so are the colors. The casing of the colors is a time-honored military tradition used to mark the deactivation of a unit. The colors represent the very soul of a military organization, its lineage, honors, sacrifice, and commitment to mission. When colors are cased, they are not retired or forgotten. They are preserved as a symbol that the unit's legacy endures. By order of headquarters, White Sands Missile Range, and in accordance with Army regulations, White Sands Test Center is hereby deactivated effective 9 June 2026. The lineage, honors, and history of White Sands Test Center are hereby transferred and preserved under White Sands Missile Range in recognition of its exemplary service to the United States Army and the nation. The organizational colors of White Sands Test Center are directed to be cased, signifying the conclusion of its active service and the continuation of its mission within America's range. The organizational colors of White Sands Test Center now pass into history under the stewardship of their final leadership team. Together, they represent the leadership, service, and sacrifice that guided White Sands Test Center through its final period of service to the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brigadier General Morgan, Commanding General, White Sands Missile Range, and host of today's ceremony.
Major General Gaydon, Command Sergeant Major Smith, our partners from Fort Bliss, Holloman, Spaceport, New Mexico, all of our New Mexico state and national delegations that are here with us today. Of course, Engineer Rocio Rangel, the voice of Wismar, Chaplain. We have pinch hitting from 1st Armored Division, the 1st Armored Division Band, incredible. The Color Guard from 2-6 Air Defense, the G3 and protocol that put all of this together. Round of applause. Thank you so much. And Color Guard, please rest. Good morning and welcome to America's Range, a storied place in our nation's history and the site of some of our nation's important firsts, the birthplace of both the atomic and the space ages. In our 81 years, this proving ground has tested the capabilities that define our nation's might. We're here to commemorate another important moment along that 8-decade timeline. Today we express gratitude to a leader, demonstrate continuity of command, and commemorate an organizational evolution. First and foremost, we're honoring the outgoing final commander of White Sands Test Center, Colonel Johnson, his wife Ryan, and their entire family. We just formally retired Unit Colors and will merge its former directorates under a single unified command, reporting directly to my headquarters, the White Sands Missile Range Senior Commander, an initiative we've called One Echelon during this past year of planning. But for the last 18 months across the Department of War, the military services have taken unprecedented looks at their structure and made tough decisions about consolidating and redistributing resources. That's meant redrawing lines of authority, hierarchies, and responsibilities for service members and civilians alike. In the Army this past year, several of our largest 3- and 4-star commands, FORCECOM, Army Futures Command, Army North, and Army South, combined into 2 larger, more expansive commands to form Western Hemisphere Command and Transformation and Training Command, T2COM. Our sister military services were no less responsive to the call to reform. In fact, just last week, Command Sergeant Major Acevedo and I attended the 49th Wing ceremony at Holloman Air Force Base to see Colonel Fryer Etheridge change command with Colonel Stryker Mullen and reflag their wing under Air Combat Command. Inside our own Army Test and Evaluation Command, we found efficiencies across the enterprise to better support Army transformation, bringing together our 2 largest elements, Operational Test Command and Army Evaluation Command, under a single Operational Evaluation Command. Here at White Sands, we reached a similar conclusion that we could gain efficiency with fewer layers of command and broader, flatter organizations. For Team Wismar, the line and block charts may be changing, but our mission, our people, and our commitment will not. White Sands Test Center has long been at the heart of our identity as America's Range. Running and stewarding scarce resources, managing the airspace, conducting safety analysis for every single test, moving unique instrumentation across our 2.3 million acres, and fitting together the most complex test schedule in the Department of War for all of our partners and customers. WSTIC carried forward a mission both historic and essential to the future of Army transformation and modernization of the joint force. None of that changes today. As our Team Wismar vision reinforces, we remain mission-focused and community-minded, deeply connected to our partners and each other. That vision continues, uninterrupted and unwavering. We've cased the Wistic colors, a symbol that will always remain part of our lineage. And we recognize a commander who embodied the spirit of this range, Colonel Matt Johnson. Colonel Johnson assumed command during a demanding period, increased test requirements not seen in a generation, growing customer demands, and significant modernization pressure. One of his earliest goals was simple but important: improve how Wistic was seen from the outside. He sought transparency, responsiveness, and strong communication to build trust. Under his leadership, the test center managed near impossible scheduling dilemmas, often among customers who were equally right and important, and often equally passionate about being right and important. Navigating the impossible is the Wismar way. Matt's team supported major modernization initiatives and strengthened relationships across the range. He summarizes his command philosophy with a pithy one-liner: do your job, reflecting his belief in empowering people, trusting them, and letting the organization flourish. And that belief was felt across the workforce. In the words of Sergeant Major Sloan, Colonel Johnson genuinely cared about the people of Wistic. He never lost sight of the mission. He never forgot that people are what make the mission happen. That's high praise from a senior enlisted leader who saw him during the toughest moments. He recounts one early morning visit to one of our most remote sites at Fort Wingate captured his leadership perfectly. It was below freezing, well before sunrise, very uncomfortable conditions. The Sergeant Major recalled that while everyone else was wondering why the hell they were still out in this misery, Colonel Johnson took the time to talk with everyone. He wasn't rushing to get somewhere warm. He was focused on people and understanding the mission. That's who he is: present, engaged, and singular in purpose. Others across Wistic saw the same commitment. One director told me, "I was super impressed with how quickly he came up to speed on the Wismar mission, the capabilities, the assets, the sustainment needs. Wismar was a major leap from his previous assignments, but he climbed the learning curve quickly." That level of investment matters, and it made a difference. To Matt's wife, Ryan, thank you for your service to the White Sands community, and to your many students at Mesilla Valley Christian School in Las Cruces. Ryan, my wife, Stacy, reminded me that you were the very first person at Wismar that reached out to us months before we had arrived while we were still overseas, and reflected your heart as a compassionate and experienced military spouse. Stacy shared further, Ryan was always attentive and alert to the needs in the community, and was always the first person to offer help or an encouraging word, even while working full-time 30 minutes away from post. On top of that, she's a great teacher, a model mother, a wife, a military spouse, and friend. Team Wismar will miss her tremendously. Abigail, congratulations on your recent graduation and your West Point AOG preparatory scholarship to New Mexico Military Institute. We wish you all the best, and I'm confident this will lead to other great opportunities. Chase and Logan, we wish you the best as you head off to high school in Northern Virginia, big football. To the entire Johnson family, thank you for your service as a fully invested military family, and for the deep imprint you've left on this range. As we bring this to a close, remember that on this field today, we honor the Wistic legacy. Wistic has been part of our vocabulary and identity for decades, but this is part of our evolution, a transformation towards efficiency that carries our momentum at a unique time in history. In the month I have remaining as the CG of White Sands Missile Range, as I quickly learn how much of the labor of running this range I've been shielded from this past year, I'm declaring my final month here Colonel Matt Johnson Appreciation Month. I'm confident this transition will be seamless, since this change aligns our structure with the way we're already operating as one team, strengthening unity for the future so the spirit of Wistic can live on through an even more unified Team Wismar. The future of America's range is bright. Together we'll continue cultivating breakthrough innovation, modernizing our unique assets and capabilities, and accelerating transformation through learning and adaptation. We'll strengthen our community partnerships and keep telling the Wismar story for the entire nation to hear. Colonel Johnson, thank you for your leadership and the example you've set. We wish you and your family the very best as you move on to your next assignment in the National Capital Region. Like WISTIC's colors, your impact here will endure. With respect for the past and a strong confidence in our future, we say our final goodbyes to the Johnsons and case the WISTIC colors for history. America's range, first to test. Truth in testing, this will defend.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Colonel Johnson, Final Commander, White Sands Test Center.
Good morning, everybody. General Gaydon, Command Sergeant Major Smith, Command Sergeant Major Acevedo, thank you for attending today's ceremony. General Morgan, thank you for hosting today's relinquishment and casing of the colors. I'd also like to thank all the friends and family of White Sands Missile Range for coming out for this ceremony today. I'd like to thank the 1st Armored Division Band and the Color Guard for their amazing support today. I'd also like to thank God for giving me an opportunity to work with such a great team. As we mark this transition, I'm reminded that organizations are built by people. First, I'd like to thank my wonderful family for their incredible support. Ryan, you are my best friend. Not only did you support me over the last 2 years, but you did it while managing our children and teaching full-time. You're an amazing woman that is always there for me. Thank you, honey. To our children, Abigail, Chase, and Logan, thank you for letting Dad continue to uproot you and move you from one end of the country to another. Ryan, kids, thank you for your unconditional love and your support. General Gaydon, thank you for the opportunity to serve as the White Sands Test Center commander for the past 2 years. And I also thank you for your leadership and guidance. General Morgan, I thank you for your leadership over the past year as we have unified and done the one echelon to try to bring these two commands together to work better and to continue to operate and execute our mission. What we do here matters. Sometimes it takes a while. Over the past 4 years, I've only been here for 2, but over the past 4 years, the Patriot, the THAAD, the Standard Missile, the GBU-57, all have had huge impacts in defense of U.S. forces or our allies from Ukraine to the Middle East. Each of those has a history of testing here that continues to this day. We've also been testing lasers for decades, and we finally took out a balloon. But seriously, lasers are coming to a formation near you. It was also 2 years of loss. 4 members of our team are no longer with us. Lee Jones, Harold Miller, Darren Gross, and Jason Schenkel. Their contributions to this mission and this team will not be forgotten. I have loved my time here. What I'll remember most is the trust. Trust given freely, earned daily, and never questioned. To my inner circle, the WISTIC headquarters, and the directors, your input and openness was extremely valuable to me over the last 2 years. From quickly bringing me up to speed on our test mission, to having the willingness to speak openly to me about the challenges we faced. Lorraine, you helped to keep me on schedule and manage my day. I enjoyed seeing your cheerful face every morning. Thank you. Sergeant Major Sloan, you were my battle buddy. You kept a pulse on the organization, kept me grounded, and helped me to lead well, but most importantly, you were my friend. Thank you. To the Material Test Directorate, you are the face of White Sands to our customers. You represent our capabilities and our personnel, and you do it well. You are more than customer service, but a planner, a scheduler, budgeter, tester, leader, and problem solver. I've probably forgotten 10 to 15 other different things that you guys do. The White Sands Missile Range Test Mission can't happen without you. To the Range Operations Directorate, you are the behind-the-scenes team. You operate our instrumentation, you track missiles across multiple different systems, you set up communications across 2.2 million acres so tests can communicate from Stallion to Oro Grande, from Launch Complex 33 to ABC WIT. I still don't know what WIT stands for. And you also run networks so that there's internet in the middle of nowhere. The White Sands Missile Range Test Mission can't happen without you. To the Survivability, Vulnerability, and Assessment Directorate, you're almost your own little microcosm, way down there near the El Paso gate. You plan, you run your own tests that support initial nuclear weapons effects, but you also support the open-air range mission with the environmental testing of systems and taking all of the airspace so that we can shoot lasers. You also finished the first refuel of the reactor in over 50 years. But most importantly, you gave me perhaps the greatest gift of all, a functioning PI 538. At least it was working when I last checked. The White Sands Missile Range Test Mission can't happen without you. To the Test Technology Directorate, modernization is your mission. From better tracking of missiles to software that fuses data, you are the engine that drives technology and modernization across the range. Bigger, faster missiles are coming, and you will help White Sands Missile Range get there in time. The White Sands Missile Range Test Mission can't happen without you. To Army Air, whether it's flying to clear the National Forest near Fort Wingate, or flying teams in to find missile impacts on White Sands National Park, they're not supposed to be there, or just taking special guests up to Trinity, you've got flight crews and maintainers available to support. The White Sands Missile Range Test Mission can't happen without you. To the Site Defense Force, as the only Army organization with our own nuclear reactor, you have an immense responsibility. I am proud of how you handle the protection mission for the reactor. The White Sands Missile Range Test Mission can't happen without you. To the staff, human resources, security, operations, logistics, communications, and resource management. You make the complex look routine. From managing 180 different utility access points to the range, to tracking hundreds of WBS codes to keep everyone connected, you handle the details that make everything else possible. The White Sands Missile Range Test Mission can't happen without you. I would be remiss to forget to mention all the partners we work with to keep this range running and supporting America's armed forces. Our Air Force neighbors to the east at Holloman Air Force Base, and the Air Force Test Detachment here that manages Air Force tests. Our sailors that operate the only landlocked boat in the fleet. Our silent professionals that do, well, we can't really talk about that. And our state partners that add capacity. I appreciate the partnership of the 704th Test Group and Detachment 2, the Port Hueneme Navy Detachment, SOFTEC, and Spaceport America. The White Sands Missile Range Test Mission can't happen without you. And not to forget our garrison partners that help to keep the mission going. Thank you for your support working diligently to keep our facilities operational. My only problem is that I really wanted to drive over that bridge before I left. The White Sands Missile Range Test Mission can't happen without you. During the past 2 years, my family and I were blessed to share life with some great people. I truly appreciate the love and care provided to our family. The commanders and command sergeant majors of Wismar and Garrison, General Morgan and Stacy, Command Sergeant Major Acevedo and Stephanie, Command Sergeant Major Diaz and Karen, Command Sergeant Major Cordry and Amanda, Command Sergeant Major Latour and Lily. You were there for my family in ways large and small, from Halloween celebrations to picking up Ryan and the kids when our car broke down. I was TDY. That always happens. That's the kind of community that makes this place special. The White Sands Missile Range test mission can't happen without you. To the entire workforce, White Sands Test Center may be transitioning into Wismar, but you and the mission are not going anywhere. The expertise you've built, the relationships you've forged, the reputation you've earned, that continues. I can't thank you enough for your dedication to the mission and to our customers. Your professionalism and expertise are unmatched. Continue to provide the same level of exceptional support. The White Sands Missile Range test mission can't happen without you. This is Trinity 6. Don't ever forget that what you do here matters. Final transmission, Army Ball, 13 June. Highly recommend attendance. Trinity 6, out. America's Range, first to test, truth in testing, this will defend.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the conclusion of today's remarks, and as we bring this historic ceremony to a close, we now invite you to stand for the retirement of the colors and the playing of the Army song. The words to the Army song are printed in your program. We invite you to sing along. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending the relinquishment of command and casing of the color ceremony for White Sands Test Center. Following the ceremony, Colonel Johnson will remain on the field to receive well-wishers, exchange farewells, and offer final thanks to the soldiers, civilians, family members, and friends of White Sands Test Center. America's Range, first to test, truth in testing, be all you can be, this will defend.